to a brand new episode of Sequel Rights, the podcast where we take a look at the franchises that make you go, they made how many of those? And we give each and every sequel a fair trial. My name is Justin Camps, and I'm here with...
Elizabeth Helly.
And...
Tyler Hymanson.
And we are back with a brand new episode for you guys, with another special guest in the house.
Yay.
Going crazy with guests.
Thomas Vu.
What up?
He's here for you.
What it do?
Thomas, we're glad to have you
I'm
tonight
excited
Indeed.
to be here.
to discuss Missing in Action 2, The Beginning.
Perhaps the first prequel.
Now, we asked Thomas to be on this episode for a couple reasons, but main reason is it's a action film, and Thomas, you're a stuntman, correct?
Yes, sir. I just happen to be in the biz, throwing my body around, getting blown up, falling off the buildings.
That is great. Lots of explosions coming up in this episode. In this episode, there's going to be explosions in the room, explosions on the mics.
You're just going to cut in
Imagine.
I'm going to
explosions.
pop with explosive vowels
Oh my gosh.
and consonants.
So I don't know,
Are there
Thomas, do you
explosive
want to
vowels?
tell us a little bit about how you got into this line of work and what are some of your favorite jobs that you've done?
Sure, yeah. I started out as a martial artist. I started learning Taekwondo as a kid because I wanted to be a Power Ranger, and my dad put me into that. And then, just doing that as a hobby and competing in that until I was 18 in high school. I was dared to audition for the hip-hop team, so I joined the dance team and fell in love with dance and started becoming a dancer throughout college and auditioned for shows and jobs and got into the industry as a dancer, believe it or not.
Nice.
And, on one of my dance jobs, I met a stunt guy and was like, "Hey, I do martial arts," and he brought me into the stunt world. And
He's like, you do choreography and martial arts?
yes, fight choreography
Indeed.
is very much like a dance between you and all your fight buddies. So, that's how I got started. And as you work more and more, and you meet other people and see other skills that you're like, holy. That's cool. I'm gonna learn that. So
You can absolutely swear here.
fuck yeah.
We earn our explicit tag.
Oh great.
Doing it. Man, so we should have had you on our Step Up series.
I know.
We didn't
Yeah.
have any dancers on.
No, we didn't. I thought about it, but I don't know. This is good, too.
No, yeah.
It'll be good. He's got a lot to
You
say.
gotta spread the love.
So
Yeah.
you said you wanted to be a Power Ranger, and I saw on your IMDb that you were in the Power/Rangers short film.
Yeah.
What was that like? Because I loved that short.
I think everyone at the table did.
Exactly.
I've never seen it.
That was the thing. Okay.
Sorry, Thomas.
Pause right now. You gotta watch it.
Well, it's super dope. Spoiler alert.
Well, as a kid, you're growing up in the 90s and you watch Power Rangers, like a hit TV show happening, and I'm like so inspired by these guys, and I was like, Dad, I want to be a Power Ranger. So he put me into Taekwondo, and then like fast forward, I don't know, 20-ish years later, I'm working in the industry, and one of my buddies is like, hey, I'm working on this thing. Do you want to come fight for me? And I was like, sure, why not? Like, this is my friend. I'm going to help him out. And then I find out later, oh, by the way, it's Power Rangers, and we have some of the original actors from the TV series in it.
That's
and
amazing.
You're going to be fighting the Black Ranger as a Korean mafia.
Oh man, that's a great scene. I'm gonna have to rewatch that.
Yeah.
So, guys, but here's the question that I have for you, is that someone asked Thomas, hey, will you come fight for me? And he was like, absolutely. Would you guys fight for me?
It depends on the situation.
I would die for you.
I don't know that you'd want us fighting for you because we're not very good.
You'd ask us first.
Would you fight for me? Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's like, oh, shit.
Goodness.
That's a good point. Well, that's great. We're so glad you're here. Going to be given, I'm sure, lots of awesome insight on the stunts going on in this film. Speaking of that, why don't we get right into it and watch the trailer for Missing in Action 2, The Beginning.
Vietnam, 1984. Chuck Norris frees the Americans, missing in action. Now, the secret of his rage can be revealed. Missing in Action 2, The Beginning. A war he couldn't forget.
We're going down! Get ready to jump!
The story behind his return. Vietnam, 1972. Captured in a savage jungle war.
You men are not prisoners of war. You are common criminals.
Imprisoned and tortured.
He's not dead! God, no!
Chuck Norris is a prisoner they couldn't break. And a soldier they couldn't hold.
Look, our country has forgotten about us, and we have to do anything we can to survive.
So there you have it, folks. The Beginning. This is how the Missing in Action series was supposed to start. Can we talk about that for if anyone's joining in? Just to
If you
listen
like
to
doing
Thomas.
things out of order, if you like flipping through to the last page of your Lego
Yeah.
set and just start building backwards, we're in Missing in Action 2, The Beginning, the first movie that was shot in the Missing in Action series, but then was completed simultaneously with Missing in Action, the previous movie that we saw, and Canon Films saw it, and they were like, you know what? The second movie is better than the first movie. Let's lead with our best stride and release this movie that we all hated first.
I gotta say, I don't know what they were thinking because this movie, I feel, is superior.
No, I feel like that things happen in this movie.
I thought this movie was better than Missing in
I
Action.
think that our Justin's making a frowny face and he hates it. But I will say that this movie is less aggressively boring than the first movie.
Yeah, but there's other things that make it worse. I feel.
Yes,
There's
no,
better fighting. There's more explosions.
Well, no, you get-
there's characters that you may at least somewhat care about a little bit.
That
Like,
one, Justin, that one guy has a chicken.
I mean,
and a child that
Michael
he's never
Bay puts
met.
in lots of explosions, and that makes those movies great.
I'm just saying. I'm not saying it was great. I'm saying it was better than the first one. That's all.
Yikes!
So.
I don't think I agree with that. I'm
Okay.
sorry.
All right.
Ooh, interesting.
Well, okay, so this movie is The Beginning, as we've said.
It starts with Chuck Norris having a
We
mustache.
have
Yes.
got to talk about the
Just a
opening
mustache.
sequence
Oh my
where
God, the
they
opening sequence
introduce
is
everybody.
amazing.
Yes. So we see that Chuck Norris has a hat.
And
That's
only
the
a
main
mustache.
And only a mustache.
Yeah, not his little beard thing.
Yep.
And,
just
a little
mustache
Texas Ranger hat.
and a hat.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, when I was watching the opening, all I could think about was Tropic Thunder.
Yeah. No, the one guy kind of looks like Robert Downey Jr.
It's like, this is exactly like Tropic Thunder's opening.
Yep.
But this is what they actually tried to
Yeah,
do.
no, but this is for
It starts
real.
with the totally trite. I mean, maybe it wasn't trite at this time, but the guy being like, "When I meet my son at home, I'm hoping my wife will name him Joe DiMaggio Mazzoli." You
That
know, the
scene
typical,
was so bad.
like,
It was
I've
trite.
never met my son situation.
It was always true.
And that's like the
Yeah.
beginning of the movie. The first conversation is like, "Man, I wonder what I'm going to name my kid." Oh, what
Joe DiMaggio.
and it's like every conversation.
stereotype McStereotype.
Yeah.
Favorite boy.
Every conversation in this film is some weird like single shot where they're like sitting or standing in totally different positions, and
Yeah.
we saw them like mere moments ago. So it's like cuts back and forth between them going like looking at each other like, "Yeah, name him that." No, what should I name him? I don't know.
Oh, you didn't realize that the opium that they were farming in the prison camp was giving them superhuman powers where they were phasing in and out of dimensions.
Yeah, apparently.
You're just not getting the same read on the movie as I was.
So Chuck Norris hops in this helicopter with these guys, and they go off to try to rescue these dudes that are in a firefight further into the jungle, right?
I guess they're all like, Why does Braddock want to go over the line to Cambodia? Could be dangerous." And then I feel like we don't know why he goes, and then they notice a firefight.
I didn't even catch
I think
that
it doesn't
much.
matter
They go
why
up in a
he goes,
helicopter
yeah.
that eventually crashes, and that's when we get the freeze frames of like the five guys.
Yeah, well, they all jump out separately.
Oh yeah.
Missing in action.
Yeah, and then after they've jumped out, it cuts to them previously in the movie.
Yeah, like a scene of them.
Yeah, you're like, remember,
and then typewriter typing their name, and then
and then a red stamped
Yeah.
logo missing in
Missing
action.
in action.
Yeah.
But at least the shots of them jumping out of a crashing helicopter were kind of cool.
Okay.
It seems dangerously low for a helicopter.
Yeah.
And
Like when Braddock jumps out, it looks like it's about to crash.
it seems like it was
That's
not
the shallow
safe.
part of the river they needed to jump in.
Totally.
Let's lower the height a little bit.
Yeah.
Oh, and he backflopped. Ouch.
Yeah, no, it seemed like it was not trained professionals, which makes it even more dangerous and real.
Yeah, it looked very scary
Yeah.
to me, and I was impressed by how scary it looked.
You were impressed by how unprofessional. The
Yeah, I was
stunts
like,
were
wow, that
on the
those guys might have died
helicopter
there. I don't
sequence.
know.
So the main people that are basically missing in action is Braddock, and then 2 black guys and 2 white guys.
Yeah,
That's
yep.
pretty much what it is.
Sure.
Yeah. And so
One
we-
German and one Italian,
Yes,
apparently.
we see a bunch of stock footage of coffins coming back from Vietnam. Reagan makes an appearance in this movie, to make a speech.
So I don't know how you guys watch this. I watched it on the combo DVD that has all 3. Justin got it on the Amazon Prime. And the quality of the movie is bad. It's not good. Yeah. And then it cuts to worse quality stock footage of just of we're doing the parade. So it's the timeline's confusing to me because they're in the POW camp 10 years after
the war ends.
The war ends. And then but the first movie takes place 10 years after the war ends, correct?
Yeah, but maybe it's the same year.
It could be like he literally
he got back in January and then came back in September or something.
And he had to make up his mind by watching a Spider-Man cartoon?
Yeah, I don't know.
All right.
Anyways,
I did like
so
that-
yeah, they're in this camp for 10 years apparently, and we only see the last year.
I did like that this movie did a better job than the last one of setting up the POW missing in action concept.
Yes.
Yeah.
The other one was just kind of like...
You know what this is.
One news report. This one showed actual footage.
It's almost as if it was the second movie in a series.
But not originally. Yeah.
No, yes, originally.
No.
The first movie was the second movie, originally.
Right. Oh, okay.
Oh, God, who cares? They get it. I'm so tired of talking about that part of it. Okay, so in the camp, it's been 10 years. We see that there were some other Americans that were also captured with them, I think, a few.
Well, that's the thing that's confusing to me because he says that there was 35 of us.
Yeah.
And so the main dynamic that's being played on this movie is that Braddock, they want him to sign that he's guilty of war crimes, right?
Yeah.
This main commander. And I'm not quite sure what his motivation is in this. It's either things that he did to the South Vietnamese that he wants Braddock to be responsible for, or...
Yes, because it seemed that they were also imprisoning several Vietnamese people, right?
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that were working the field and stuff. And also, the whole movie, I never figured out whether Captain Ho was an Asian American guy or a Vietnamese guy that was being forced to.
Oh, I think it was Vietnam. I think he was a Vietnamese guy.
Was he?
Which guy is Captain Ho?
The doctor
the
guy.
The one with the glasses.
Yeah, the one with the glasses.
The prisoner with the glasses.
Yeah. I think he was.
He was
South Vietnamese.
I think he was supposed to be a South Vietnamese.
So they were just putting him in there and being attend to this guy's wounds or whatever?
No. I mean,
he was a POW.
he was also a
himself.
POW.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. But Vietnamese.
Right.
Got it. Okay.
North and South was the war.
Got it. Okay. So there's a bunch of people. Yeah. So, anyway. One of the... okay, well, it starts out with some guy named Harry.
That's one of the things, right, I noticed when I was watching is, their Vietnamese accent is awfully American Chinese.
Yeah, that's why I was I didn't feel like he was Vietnamese, but okay.
Oh, yeah, Colonel Yen or whoever's the lead of the prison camp.
Yeah.
His voice credits include Mulan.
Mulan, he's his dad.
He's a
my
Korean
roommate
actor.
kept saying, is he going to talk about the flower that blooms in adversity?
I thought that he was he was very recognizable to me, and when I looked at his IMDb, I feel like there's the one thing I did realize that he's the sensei in Beverly Hills Ninja, which is probably where I recognize him from.
Okay.
Did you recognize him as the evil villain from all the Bond movies?
Yeah.
So they're working the fields, and we see this guy Harry who tries to make a run for it, and he gets into some trouble on this rope bridge. And then
the impenetrable rope bridge.
Yes. And then there's a crazy fire situation. So Thomas should talk about this because this is what he does.
So Yeah, Harry's trying to escape, runs across the bridge, and he's stopped by Iron Man version 1.
Yeah.
The big flamethrower arm. My first thought was like, why are you throwing flame at a rope bridge?
At a rope bridge. It's your only way.
It makes a lot of sense.
So yeah, the guy gets lit on fire, and you can clearly see he's in a fire suit.
Yep.
He grows about twice his size. That's a clear indicator of protective safety equipment.
And he's on a rope bridge, and it's not like it's small enough where, like, oh, that's believable. Like, the bridge would be incinerated.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, the flame itself was pretty gnarly. It was good burn, good size burn.
And then, how does a stuntman survive a fall like that?
Thomas does it every day, literally.
By throwing a dummy. That's how. So yes, what Elizabeth is referring to is I also work at Universal Studios, the Waterworld stunt show there. There's the stunt I do there is getting lit on fire and then falling 45 feet into the water. Kind of a direct translation to what happens in this film. This dude is lit on fire, and then he falls maybe 300 feet.
Totally, he survives, by the way. Totally fine.
Bouncing off the cliff, and then eventually landing in the river.
So, how do you get the magical spell as a stuntman to turn into a dummy and then back into a human being?
That sounds hard.
The magic of Hollywood. Secrets that will die with me.
You're blessed by an editor.
That's right.
I couldn't believe it, though, when that happened in the movie. I was like, that's like Thomas's specialty, and it's in this movie. It's going to be so perfect. Like, I'm so excited.
Again, don't guard your rope bridge with the flamethrower.
Yeah,
though.
not a great idea. Anyways, so back at the camp, we discover that Nestor, who was one of the black guys, has kind of thrown in with the bad guys for Colonel Yin, and he's like they keep saying he's a traitor because he's helping Colonel Yin basically torture everybody else.
So I think a good thing that this movie does, previous to the other movie was just like, all Vietnamese people are evil.
Yeah.
like except for the family that gets the like innocent bystanders. that
Yeah,
get
the
rocket
poor
running.
people that they cart in.
Like this movie does a good job of being like, this guy's crazy.
Yeah.
He has a vendetta, and like the whole central conceit of the movie is Braddock is making all of his men endure this entire thing because he's not going to sign whatever the fuck Colonel Yen wants him to sign. And so I think it does a good job of making him crazy and evil and not part of the larger war or effort, which the first movie is very murky about.
Yeah, the first movie kind of implied that the government is the one doing these camps, where this one kind of puts it all on this dude.
This guy's an opium dealer.
Yeah.
It's been 10 years, and like it's a battle of wits between them that they both admit is kind of not pointless, but like it is their ego, and it's personal between them. There is no
At the expense of their men.
at the expense of their men.
much.
Yeah, at the
Playing chess with their pawns.
Exactly.
Yeah, the beginning part of this film is basically a series of like torture pranks.
Torture, yeah, it's
that
just
he
like
pulls on all these
torture
guys.
after torture, and that's maybe what I think made them think that the other movie was better, because they're like, they're showing these eight different torture methods is just too much, maybe.
And they're all like, we're gonna shoot you in the head. But just kidding, there's no gun or bullets in this gun.
Yeah.
It's all meant to fuck with Braddock, to watch his men suffer so that he will sign this piece of paper.
Yeah, there's one point where they force him to get into a fist fight with Nestor, the dude who's giving them up. There's a whole hanging from your feet and tortured rat in a bag over your head thing, which is insane. That was probably the worst one.
Which is the only thing I remember about this movie.
Oh my god!
is that like I was like, that's where the Chuck Norris meme starts? It was like,
okay,
I feel like it has to be, because it's like Chuck Norris, like they put the rat in the bag, which is the thing that they did.
Yeah,
like,
sure.
And although it was more with like a bucket and like hot coals on top of it.
Yeah.
But it's like, oh, Chuck Norris got the rat in the bag, and then he bit the rat.
Yeah.
Like, and it's so The way it's staged is like the rat would be at the bottom of the bag the whole time.
The
He's
bag
hanging
was so
upside down.
big that I didn't see how the rat was even getting up to Chuck Norris's face.
But basically, they put a burlap sack over his head. The idea is they can put the rat in there. The rat's gonna fuck him up, and then Chuck Norris bites the shit out of it.
Also, they have a scene where they're like poking the rat with sticks really bad, and I looked at the end of the credits to see if no animals were harmed in the making of this film, and they did not have that disclaimer.
Well,
I mean, they killed that chicken?
Didn't exist
yeah,
until
they
after.
claimed a chicken, they killed a chicken, and they tortured the rat.
That disclaimer didn't exist until after El Topo. And
That's what I figured, but it was still sad. It was still sad.
Lots of horses were killed.
Aww.
They just kept
Could
having.
say the animals went missing in action.
Nice. They just kept having all these like ridiculous torture scenes, and the main bad guy, Colonel Yin or whatever, is so like cartoonishly evil the entire time that I kept expecting them to be like, now I'm going to hang you over my pit of sharks with lasers on their head. And then as soon as the sharks would like line up to shoot the dude with the lasers, they'd go off and they'd be like, just kidding, it's only laser pointers. And the soldier would just be like, fuck, I can't handle this shit.
So at some point in the I don't even remember how many torture scenes there are, but in the middle of it, they kind of get like a reprieve or a glimmer of hope when this Australian photographer shows up. in the woods.
No. The first thing that happens is I must say, like, they don't know. But one of the most interesting things about this movie is that they're in the POW camp and they don't know if the war's still going.
Yes,
they don't know
that's
if people
true.
are looking for them. And then so like the movie has a bunch of fake outs. It goes between weird torture jackass stunts and them having reasons for hope. And so they hear American helicopter.
Oh, yeah.
It lands. There's a French heroin dealer that's on it with a bunch of hookers. And so like that's the first like, oh, a glimmer of hope. Oh, no one's looking for us. And then so the second one
is this Australian photographer who's like taking pictures and being like, oh, I'm going to expose this. But they capture him and he lies to Colonel Yin and says, oh, I'm part of an international relief organization.
He lies beautifully to him.
Yes.
And then chokes.
And then,
Hardcore the second time. I'm like,
Basically says,
what
like,
happened to his
He's
swab to me?
he's in a POW. Like, he's a badass for like 5 minutes where he's like, oh, I'm a point man for a rescue team. Like,
I've got a homing beacon in the woods.
I don't want to play footsie in the sun with you. Like, you need to give me everything that you want. Like, all you guys are going to die no matter what. Either deal with me or die slow or die fast. I don't give a fuck.
Possibly the most believable actor in the film.
Yes. and then he gets into the cell with him and he's like, I was fucking lying.
And the music's like dun dun dun. He's like, I'm alone. Dun dun dun.
Let's get out now.
But he tries to escape, but unfortunately Francois, the French Vietnamese guy, comes back.
The drug dealer guy.
Yeah, the drug dealer. And he knew that photographer guy, so he exposes him, and then they tell the photographer they're gonna execute him, and they are about to shoot him in the head, and Mazzoli yells out, "Don't worry, it's fake!" And it wasn't. So we see him get shot in the head in slow motion.
And we get to experience one of like about 8 fade to blacks right in the middle of like a very important scene.
It definitely feels like a made-for-TV movie in terms of how much it fades to black.
They legitimately fade to black in the middle of a line.
They do.
Early on.
I was expecting a commercial break. Oh, no commercial.
There's one scene where Braddock's like, "Are you okay?" And like before he says "okay," it like fades
It's one
to
of the
black.
things where the director prays for a commercial break because he's just like, we don't have the footage to sell this scene.
They didn't have reaction
Shut it
footage
down.
for any of those scenes. There's like
No.
it fades to black after they reveal that Braddock has eaten the rat. Like we don't see anyone's reactions. Like, oh shit.
Yeah.
It fade to black right after Clive gets shot in the head.
Yeah.
No one's reactions at all except his, I guess.
Which is like, he's like, that was bad practical effects.
I did like when Francois landed and all the hookers came out, and he said, "This time I promise they're all virgins."
Yeah.
And,
I brought some virgins this time, you guys.
I don't want to speculate, but
My favorite thing
he was lying.
is in the credits. They're just credited as whores.
Yeah.
And there's 5 names.
Yeah. So after Clive gets shot in the head, Franklin, this dude, the other black guy, has been sickly the entire time, and they think he has malaria.
He has malaria.
And so Colonel Yin tells Braddock that he'll cure him or give him medicine, basically.
Well, they've been trying to get him quinine for the entire time.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm forgetting the gentleman's name who has pledged himself to Yen.
Nestor.
Nestor has been trying to get the malaria medicine the entire time, and he's like, he hasn't locked up, but like, I'll get there. I'm trying. Like, I got you. I got everybody beer. Like, he's trying to be a good guy. He's like, I gave him what he wanted, and he's been very nice to me. I don't understand why you guys don't want to do it. And Braddock knows. Yeah, this is mind games.
Yeah, he's just using you. Yeah.
So he tells him. So Braddock finally signs this document or whatever.
Well,
and then,
it's with the professor. Like, this guy is gonna die of malaria. Like, he's had malaria. He's had malaria for months.
Yeah,
and then the Vietnamese doctor says, "Hey, he's dying. This is gonna happen." And that's the final thing where Braddock's like, "Okay, I'll break." We watched 15 minutes of this movie. Of people getting tortured insanely,
probably longer than that.
And
almost the whole movie.
Yeah, almost the
whole movie. And the thing that I don't understand is that somebody said that there was 35 American prisoners here, right?
Yeah, and it's down to
and now it's
5.
So did they escape? Were they killed? I think
they tried to escape.
Was it just this guy that he gives a shit about?
Yeah, I think because Braddock was the highest ranking, and so he purposely kept Braddock's guys alive longest to have leverage over Braddock.
But Braddock cracks when this guy's going to die of malaria.
Yeah, well, I mean, he has more notice than him just shooting
the movie
guys
gives
in the
you
head.
no reason why.
Yeah,
exactly.
So
that's a common theme in this film. Why do you do that? I have no idea.
And then so the doctor's like, this guy's dying, and then Braddock's like, I yield after someone's been shot in the head.
But he's the first of his own men, right?
I think so. It was like, you weren't my unit, so I don't give a shit if you died. All 20 of you.
I don't know, but
I don't specifically remember them giving a head count of how many people were
35.
I do remember that.
And it's down to 5 or whatever, or 6. So Yin, instead of giving Franklin the medicine, he shoots him up with like an insane amount of opium, and
then reveals it in the most evil way possible.
Yeah, what he says is he could walk all the way from here to Los Angeles and the opium still wouldn't have worn off or whatever.
No, because they were like, "Oh my god, it's poison!" And they try to get him up and walk him around, like they're frantic for their buddy.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Oh, you guys are very silly because he's super dead."
He's like, "Is this some sort of American funeral rites?"
Yeah. And then they put him on a table and he's not even dead
He's not dead yet.
And they pour gasoline all over him and set him on fire.
In the rain. Which is hard to do. It was raining.
Braddock is really upset by this, as anyone would be, because he's clearly still alive and writhing around, and they just set him on fire. Ugh.
And it turns out the only thing that was keeping Braddock inside this prison was his nice manners, because once he's mad, oh boy.
Yeah. So
he kills himself.
Yeah. He hangs himself.
Yeah. Or does he?
I never once thought he was dead.
No.
Well, we've seen the second movie. Yeah.
Never. Yeah, right, yeah. This movie removes all tension.
So he fake hangs himself and escapes.
Tricks the guard to come in. And,
this is where I start to get confused as to what's happening in the movie.
Really?
This is when all the action starts.
This is when the movie gets good.
This is where all the things happen.
Like, he makes it back out to the rope bridge. I think there's some more fire, and
if you launch a flamethrower in any of these movies, it has to be shot in slow motion. That is a rule. Apparently.
At some point, they're making a big deal that Mazzilli is the only one left, technically.
Mazzilli also has a relationship with the chicken.
Yes.
Right.
Is it a thing that you need to know, maybe?
No.
Well,
he's really whiny.
Kills the chicken and throws it at him.
Like when Justin hates a movie, how much he does not give a shit about anybody who's in it.
I know. I had the names wrong for some of the characters, like the entire movie until the end.
Rizzoli and Isles?
I thought Mazzilli's name was Nestor. And then I was like, wait, Nestor is the guy who's the traitor?
I thought there was a Nestor and a Lester, and I was like, wait so who's fuck?
No, the German guy's last name is like something close to that.
Or something.
Olpeka. Yeah, okay, so Chuck Norris goes into the woods and finds out that this guy Opelka has been running around still alive, but when did he leave? That's
He
what I
ran-
completely missed.
When the helicopter first came through, like he started running because
Oh yeah.
Yen was trying to hide that the Americans were still alive because Francois knew that the only thing that was fucking up their opium trade was that there were still POWs there. There was not a reason for Yen to keep them around. And so they were trying to hide that, and in that confusion when the helicopter was coming, Russian dude or German dude ran away. And then Braddock
avoided all the man traps.
No, they were trying to shoot at him, and then Braddock was like, "Hey, I'm still here." And then they tried to shoot him, but they were like, "Oh no, we can't shoot him. He still has to sign a piece of paper."
All right, so he's alive. He's been hiding in the woods this whole time, or something. And so he helps Braddock.
Was he hiding in the water?
Yeah.
I don't know. He just jumps out of nowhere at certain parts.
I'm like, I've lost the order of this.
Okay,
yeah.
so Braddock's out, and then like Yen's telling the two dudes who are left is just like, well, he's gone. He's abandoned you. And then the betrayer dude is like, oh, he's coming back.
He has like through the second half of the film, he has like a psychic link, like, Braddock is out there. Don't you worry. He didn't leave, I can sense him. And then later on, when they're like yelling for Braddock, he's like, don't worry, he's listening. He can hear you in the jungle.
You don't want to kill me because I know what he's going to do.
Oh, yeah.
He is not pleased.
Braddock is upset.
I don't remember exactly when this happened, but at some point, Braddock falls into the water and they can't find him. They think he's dead. It turns out he's got the classic piece of bamboo coming out of the water that he's breathing out
and
of.
that's where the German dude finds him.
Okay, yeah, that's what he finds.
And then they fight in the water for no reason.
But yeah, he's in the water and the Germans are all running by, and I'm like, oh, this is going to be the bamboo stick trick. Everybody knows.
He made a snorkel. He made a snorkel.
Yeah. Oh no. So eventually Braddock breaks into the shack where they were hiding all of the illegal weapons. I don't like it. I just said it's better than the other one. So they break in and he steals a gigantic flamethrower.
Yeah.
Like the most huge flamethrower that we've seen yet, and it is ridiculous. And he just starts burning everything.
I think it's the same one the other guy was using.
It seemed a lot bigger to me, but
It's his flamethrower.
It's the same thing.
It's the same one.
no, it was from the new batch of weapons.
This movie
No.
has no budget.
He stole it from the guy that was using it before and kills those dudes with it.
Yeah,
And
so there's a lot
apparently-
of burning.
And stole crates of explosives.
Yeah, so
and
many
somehow
explosives.
rigged the entire camp.
With explosives.
With
Yeah,
explosives.
in the previous movie, we got like a 15-minute scene of him slowly setting all the
Blazing
C4.
explosives.
This one, it just is like, boop,
All done.
explosion.
So about that. So are we
Yes?
saying that he didn't get everybody in this movie?
What do you...
Who?
Well, I mean,
Braddock.
yeah, this movie makes it seem like he saved everyone, and the only people who are left are the Vietnamese POWs.
Right.
Yeah, so I think there are other camps.
So he heard rumors of other camps
Yes.
and had to go.
And that's why the other movie happens.
Yeah, and he also knew exactly where those camps were because he'd never
so
been there
him being
before.
captured, the guy who he ends up killing with an axe randomly for no reason on a boat.
No, none of those people are in this movie.
No, none of
No.
those. So we thought some of the same people would be in it, but they weren't.
I understand that. How does that dude play into him getting captured?
Yeah,
into
I
this
mean,
camp?
I guess he was just there at some other point in the history of the camp, and that's when he cut him in the stomach or whatever, and then...
I mean, okay, in the first movie, he's clearly going back to the same camp that he was at.
Right. And in this
That's
movie,
fairly
he's-
obvious because he just knows where to go. He knows
Yeah.
where everyone is.
I guess so.
He
I
knows
just thought it was
exactly
another-
where the cages are.
I mean, how complicated could these camps be? It's just like a bunch of shacks. Like,
So wait, are we saying that he's such a bad war hero that he went to two different camps?
no, he only went to one camp. He only found out where the camp was in the Missing in
These
Action
movies
movie.
don't connect,
He found
okay?
out from killing that colonel guy in the princess bed.
All right, so what camp did we see him blow up in this movie?
The one that he's in. That we just saw in this movie only.
So then they rebuilt the camp, and it's the same
No,
year.
it's a different camp. It's clearly a different camp. Because that one was on the border of Thailand, right? I don't know any
you can't
geography.
really argue this
This
point
is
because the films
suburbia
were-
Vietnam, where all the camps are designed the same way.
Yeah.
In rows.
Tract homes.
Yeah.
Do you
Tract
want
camps.
Do you want the camp with the bamboo spikies in the front, or do you want the camp that has the triple decker?
This one has 5 bungalows as opposed to the other one that only has 2.5.
Your HOA is only 2 pounds
That's
of
right.
opium.
That's right.
Now this one has pre-dug holes for shitting. Some of them you have to dig yourself.
So, at some point he gets Mazzilli out, and there's a whole waterfall bungeeing, like, or
They throw a dummy down a
rappelling,
waterfall.
yeah.
That
scene.
was amazing.
Yeah.
The dummy loses its head halfway down too. I don't know if you guys saw that.
Actually, I want to double back to the fight between the betrayer and
Braddock?
Braddock.
Okay.
So before we like this whole breakout thing, it's like a mind game thing where they're fighting each other, and I kind of want to talk about that fight, in that Braddock's strategy is just getting punched in the face a lot. Mm-hmm. And just like from a fight choreography standpoint, like you have Chuck Norris, he has like both of them can fight ostensibly. I feel like it's a very bad fight.
Well, and Chuck Norris has ankle chains on.
Yeah,
in
sure.
that scene.
Which he uses
to his advantage.
Yeah. So one of the interesting things that I've come to learn throughout the course of my career is how stunts is being done today compared to how they used to be done back, 20, 30 years ago. With the technology that's changed and rules have changed on how to create an environment to be more safe, and even like the ability for the public to digest certain styles of violence. So you watch all your older movies, all these old films, and they have a very particular style of doing stunts, even like the way it's filmed and how it's cut together. And then you watch it now, and it's so much faster paced. Mm-hmm. And there's definitely an art now, or back then as well, but the art is different now in the details of a fight. It's very much detail oriented, whereas back then it was like, I throw a punch, now you throw a punch.
Yeah.
And
It's like this guy's gonna do it, and we're gonna get the coverage of that. And I think that it's something where now there's where to put a camera to sell a fight.
That being said, I think the simplicity of this fight is to create the contrast in the fight you see at the end of the movie that he has with General Yen or Colonel Yen, which is vastly different in the types of moves that they use.
Yeah.
And much more of the Chuck Norris that we all know and love.
Yeah.
And
finally,
for the first time in this series,
Yeah.
honestly, as you see him
really
fight
is.
as you want to see him fight.
So yeah, I don't even. What else happened?
There's lots of explosions. There's a scene where Chuck Norris definitely should have died, but he didn't die. They kind of like he comes back to the camp and he thinks that like everyone's gone or not paying attention or something, and they have set up this trap for him.
Oh yeah,
where like he goes to open up one of the cages and he lifts the door and there's all these dudes with guns shooting straight up at him, but he's able to somehow shut the door and survive and run away like
he
nothing
blocks
happened.
the bullets with the fist in his chin.
Yeah, exactly. And there's another there's another scene towards the end where they have like brought out the colonel in quotes.
oh yeah.
And are calling Braddock out. This is the scene where Nestor's like, he's listening, don't worry.
Yeah.
And they're like, we're gonna kill the colonel. We're
Like
done
we
with this.
we don't want to follow him anymore. We're gonna kill him.
Because he's killed like 30 dudes at this point.
Yeah.
And then they like,
And they're like, we don't want, like, it's to the point where it'd be believable of him saying, of everyone in the camp being like, stop killing us.
they kick him down to the ground and shoot him full of bullets. And they're all like, oh dang, he's dead. But then like the rest of the movie, like several turns in this film hinge on the fact that Braddock and Opeka have awesome fashion sense.
Yes. Because like,
They see
"Those
from a
aren't
distance.
his boots."
Yeah, wait. Those aren't the colonel's boots. They know it's not him.
While staring 500 yards away.
Yeah. They don't have binoculars.
Hiding in the
Those
hills.
are really not that different either between the two styles, but okay.
Like, Colonel would be caught dead in those boots.
Yeah, and this comes back again a couple scenes later where the colonel is in one of the bungalow buildings, and they blow up part of it, and they go inside there and they find like his leg, and it's just his leg, and they look down and they look and see like, yep, those are his boots. He's definitely dead. And then they're like, all right, time to leave. And they get on the helicopter and they start flying away. But wait, the colonel comes crawling out of like a hidey hole in the floor.
Yeah, and it looks kind of like nightmarish because it's like deformed. Like, it's not like a thing. Where
Yeah.
It's like something to think a rug or something like that.
He comes climbing out and sees that they're leaving, and he like looks.
I kept
up.
staring at his leg too to see if it was blown up. It's like
No, he's wearing the same boots, but it's like
he's got both legs.
yeah. Also, they shot that scene like they made it think like the colonel knows that they're gonna know he wears these types of boots, so he's gonna put his boot on this other leg that's blown off, and then go hide, and they'll know that he's dead.
How did he find the time to switch legs?
I don't know. But he crawls out.
As Justin said, he has a tank of sharks with lasers somewhere.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah.
He gets carried around on a fucking throne.
He's a wicker throne.
Tuck tuck.
Dupped up.
So one of Yin's henchmen is like the token really large man, and
He gets kicked in the dick in this movie.
he's credited the actor's name is Professor Toru Tanaka because that was his professional wrestling persona.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Okay, so I just assumed that was the doctor.
I saw
That is
the
very
professor.
racist, but yeah, it was just the big guy. 'cause
Why
that's
is that
his-
racist?
I don't know, because he had glasses. Yeah, like, oh, the guy with the glasses must be the professor.
That's not racist.
I know. He had glasses and he was Asian. But
People
anyways,
that
it's
wear
actually
glasses
this,
are a different race.
this huge wrestler guy. I don't, and he like tokenly comes out and scares everybody once or twice, but they didn't utilize him very much. Yeah,
yeah, I think he just gets blown up at the end.
yeah.
He got bitch slapped once too.
Indeed.
But yeah, it all leads up to the best
final
scene
fights,
of
yes.
the film, where we finally get a one-on-one fight between Braddock and Colonel Yin.
Yep. Braddock,
great.
Braddock, who
Put
was
down the
malnourished for a decade,
Yeah.
kicks his ass.
He does look ragged as fuck for most of this film.
He does.
Well, Colonel Yin is like, let's put down the guns and just go man to man with no weapons. But I'm just like, why would you agree to that?
He
like,
doesn't
who
agree to
cares?
it. He doesn't agree to it.
But he doesn't.
He hides
shoot
a
him.
gun. Yeah, the gun misfires.
No, I thought that was a callback to the fact that like
No, I think it was too. But
that
yeah.
he fake
yeah.
executed.
Yeah,
both of his friends.
he wouldn't agree to it. Then he has a gun, and then he has a fake gun.
They don't use the gun.
He
in the
planned out
fight.
this whole thing.
then
He took the bullets out just to make it.
Okay,
quick.
so how about the fight then? We finally see.
Well, and I think that you made a very good point that there's a great contrast between the first actual fist fight we see in this movie and then this fight, which is actually a choreographed fight. Mm-hmm. And I would love to hear any insight comparing and contrasting the two of them.
Well, the first one, and you also look at like who his opponent was, right? It was two Americans essentially, and American style fighting, and this is kind of being presumptuous on or stereotyping Americans. You know, they're boxers; they fight standing up, just throwing punches, very simple, back and forth. And then now he's fighting Colonel Yen, who's Asian, Vietnamese specifically, and does all these like Tai Chi Kung Fu moves. And it's like,
I was wondering about that.
it's like, oh, now Bruce, or not Bruce, Chuck Norris has to step his game up and throw his kicks. Oh, he's got kicks now.
Oh, we got kicks now. His legs are no longer chained.
Yeah.
That's true.
And
thankfully,
they do cut to when he took the chains off.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
I think it's when he raided the armory.
Yeah, he leaves him behind,
Yeah.
and it's like,
and they
"Na-na-na-na."
camera zoom in.
Yeah.
He's got legs
at this
now.
point too, by the end for this final fight, Chuck Norris's like gear that he's been for a while, he was running around in one of the military jackets, but now at this point he's got like the pieces of cloth that kind of look like a karate outfit,
Right.
Totally, yeah.
or Ray from The Last Jedi. You know, it's like
Yeah.
the two things. You know,
Like a rice picker farmer.
Yeah.
He's missing
He's
the
all
hat.
kitted out.
And so, like, this last fight has some grapples. This last fight's pretty different from all the action the rest of this
There's some
movie.
great moves.
There's definitely an affinity for these leg sweeps.
Yeah.
Every time he threw one, I was like, man, that would never work. What are you thinking? But okay. I'll still buy it.
So did it seem dated in that way, or did it seem
Oh,
like,
yeah.
or that's of the time, like that's
Yeah, martial art films tend to have a trend in their choreography style. You watch any martial art movie in like the 80s and 90s, even in the 70s too. Like it's very specific to a certain style of of a martial art, and then you go to a different movie. Now it's a different style of martial art, and you'll see certain moves pop up again and again because it's like, oh, that move was cool. We're gonna do that one again, and so you see, and then you're seeing the same trend, not the same trend, but the fact that a trend is happening again today with the movies that are coming out now. You're all like Jason Bourne style fights, and a lot of the fight scenes are done with this amazing stunt team called 8711. It's kind of their brand of martial arts. It's kind of like the Matrix-y. What's another example? John Wick. That kind of like
is the Raid an extension of that, or is
the Raid was a different fight team. They use a different style of martial art called Salat, and but it's still kind of the same idea of like this gruesome close quarters combat. And even like the editing style too.
The going for maximum versatility, like the most visceral you could do, like the most, like everything is going to be the most brutal take that you can take.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, Chuck Norris wins.
We forgot to mention that throughout the whole film, there's all these shots of the Colonel like off in the distance staring, pensively at Braddock and saying like, "You lose." This whole time, he keeps going, "You lose." And then at the very end,
like a weird ghost. Yeah.
At the very end, Chuck Norris I don't know what he does, but he like crushes his abdomen or something.
Yeah, it was weird. He like grabbed his ribs or something.
Yeah,
it
and
looked
then,
he grabbed his stomach.
I think it was the squeezing his heart, right?
It was too low.
It was way too low.
I think it was too low.
It just looked like he was measuring his BMI or something.
Yeah, it looked like he grabbed like his rib cage and just crushed it. And then he's
Norris.
Like, "You lose."
I think that there's something interesting of I think the fight coordinator was a Norris last name. I don't know if it was Chuck's
I think it's his brother.
Oh, his brother Aaron Norris?
Yeah.
Was it his brother
it was.
Aaron Norris?
Yeah.
And it's interesting kind of how the fighting in this movie is boring.
Until the end.
Yeah.
And Chuck Norris has been around some of the greatest fight choreographers of all time.
Yeah.
Like that's how he started his career. And it's weird that it's just his brother.
Well, it is weird too. Like the last film we talked about, how the director was like specifically trying to bring Chuck Norris into being more of an action, like a traditional action star with
give
guns,
him a gun, yeah,
and like shooting guns. And then this one is kind of like half and half. There's a certain part in the beginning when he's shooting a gun where it's kind of like, does he know how to shoot a gun? I'm not sure. And then it leads to this big build up, and he has this one-on-one martial arts fight.
It definitely has the martial arts
more-
film ending.
Yeah,
which
is more like what his previous films were. Like.
Yes,
Have you guys seen a lot of his other films?
yes.
Oh, okay. So how does this compare out of the ones you've seen?
Well, I mean, his first film appearance is him fighting Bruce Lee. And that
one was
fight's
it?
awesome. He's in Enter the Dragon.
Enter the Dragon. Yeah, I was
Yeah.
gonna say the Dragon.
Yeah. The Octagon with Lee Van Cleef. Like he's in a lot of more martial arts movies where he's doing martial arts.
Right. That was his claim to fame.
Yeah.
He was a
He was the
champion
white
martial artist.
He was the white martial arts dude.
Yeah.
okay.
And so this movie is kind of like use him better.
Yeah.
And then that last fight, as much as it is very much of the style, I think that for 85, it was probably a decent martial arts sequence.
It was ahead of its time, for sure.
Yeah.
I'll give this film one really great shot that I liked that in my mind felt like totally out of place. Like when it was happening, I was like, what is this? Like this shot, it feels weird for the rest of the movie, but it's like a cool shot. So at the end, Chuck Norris, Braddock has like crushed his abdomen, Colonel Ewan's abdomen,
Right.
abdomen or something.
Ababum.
Sorry, I can't talk.
Abaman.
He's crushed his abdomen. And he just leaves him like sitting there in the bungalow, and there's a shot of him like he goes, ugh, and he like kind of sits there frozen. Colonel Yin sits there frozen, kneeling on the ground, and the camera like does this like slow zoom out, and it goes for like a long time.
Yeah.
There's like just a little bit of music
It's
going.
almost
and it's just,
artful.
like, exactly, which
Yeah.
I was like watching it like, this feels weird, but like I also kind of like it.
Yeah.
I'm entranced.
Yeah.
It's
It's
almost
really
like there's a director to this movie.
I know, it felt so out of place, but I was like, no, this is like a legit shot. He's slowly moving out.
It's really good.
Yeah, and it was just like really cool before it goes to generic, like, this is the end of the movie.
It didn't fade to black, which I was happy about.
Yeah. But it just cuts to him leaving on the helicopter.
Faded to Chuck Norris 300 yards away and blows up the
Yes.
entire
Yes.
bungalow.
So like at some point he had said, "This is for
Nestor.
like Nestor, and this is for Franklin," and
Oh
then
no!
he goes outside.
Oh no! He said
and,
it's for everybody.
This is
Yeah.
for me.
and then he says, "This is for me," and he sets off apparently other bombs that were set up at some point.
Now, this one might be
They
the
were
big,
set up in the
new,
first
Let
movie,
me
apparently.
open my ham radio.
At first, I thought he had like found a radio and he was going to be like, "I've got the POW," but then it was like another bomb.
Yeah.
And
this
he's
might-
staring dead in the camera.
Yes.
There's a
flinch.
lot of staring dead into camera in this movie.
This might be in the running now for biggest explosion that we've seen.
Yes.
The
Bigger than the
species.
Dark Man.
Yes.
one?
Big one.
Yeah. Also, the Species 4 explosion was pretty huge.
Okay.
That one. Yeah, and the Darkman one that like people were in.
That
the
they did
explosion.
it on
That
accident.
people almost died.
Yeah.
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 But this explosion was pretty huge.
It was ridiculous.
Yeah, I was just like, wow.
It was more.
There goes the
It was
budget.
larger than the explosion in the first movie, where we saw him set up bombs for,
Oh, yeah,
15,
for 15
minutes.
minutes.
Yeah.
I don't know. What
And
did you
then,
think about the explosion, Thomas?
I loved him.
Yeah, the best.
One of the beautiful things about watching older films is that you can count on majority of it not being CGI, right?
Yep. Yep.
You watch an explosion, it's actual effect bombs going off.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah.
Yeah.
And you can kind of see it in like the opening sequence, a lot of like the pyrotechnics type of explosions. You're like, oh, technology is a lot different now. Like,
Yeah,
And there were
it's-
lots.
There's a low-flying helicopter and giant explosions, like in the first 10 minutes of this movie.
Yeah, and there were lots of like grenades and stuff going off where people. It looks like they're exploding right next to them, and they're just like flying away. How do you prepare mentally for that kind of thing?
Yeah.
And like, you know, there's explosions going off, and I don't know if you're just jumping away from them or it
right,
probably
right.
Depends on the,
That's a good question.
it's set
So
up.
there's an old technique called an air ram, and it's basically a catapult that's powered by high pressured air. You stepping on it is a trigger, and it actually launches you. And so they used to use them all the fucking time, and now I've probably seen it on set maybe twice in my career, and because we can do wires now and hide the wires, so it's much safer to rig a person on a wire and pull them away than it is to have a guy launch off of a ram.
And have it tumble, but you get the actual, like, ragdolling of
Yeah,
somebody
so
going...
I like the Rams. They're fun to ride. And they look great. Like the action's really like you're actually flying through gravity. But you know, in for the sake of budget and safety, it's easier to find a stunt person who can ride a wire than it is to find a stunt person who's trained how to ride an air ram. You know, and when you're in the market with so many other people, you're like, I don't have time to try and find somebody that can safely ride an air ram. Here, let's just throw this guy in a wire.
yeah.
And so,
Oh, that bums me out.
yeah, exactly. And you know, kudos to my predecessors before me who have that training and kind of paved the way for that. And now it's like anyone can do it. Well, almost anyone. But,
Yeah, like, get it on wires, we'll get it in post, and it's like, and it's going to look fake.
And but yeah, so you set the ram like kind of X distance away from a bomb and set it off behind him and time it.
That's crazy. And there's a lot of explosions, and you know, we said in the beginning, people jumping out of the helicopters and everything, and you watch in the credits and it says that there were only 4 stuntmen credited. Does that seem like a normal amount for this kind of project, or are they those 4 guys doing all, like, every single scene?
Good question. Back in the 80s, I don't know. I can tell you nowadays, depending on the type of budget, big budget movies will have like 30, 40, 50 stuntmen long. Like, it's a deep list. Because their action sequences are so massive and so large and extensive. But on the lower budget ones, yeah, we'll recycle guys. We'll have a stunt team of 5 to 10, and we'll have a shootout scene of what looks like an entire army, but it's the same 5 guys getting shot over and over. All right, put on a dolphin helmet. Cool. Get shot again. Okay, change your shirt. Here you go. Go. Boom. And then you just cut the scene together.
Nice.
The thing that I have a question about this just general stunt. I don't know if it's theory or what it is, but it's like, so you have so many more cameras, right? So you can get so much more coverage. So you could ostensibly set up more dangerous stunts that you would be able to get all at once and make more things real and make more things in the way that stunt crews and some people want to do them. And it feels like the industry has gone the other way, where it's putting people on wires, doing things that, you know, it's we'll put one camera here, we'll do this, and it's not, we have 5 cameras to actually capture the stunt. Let's just get the effect and do it, and audiences don't fall for it. And 90% of the movies that come out today. And I just kind of want to know, is that me as an audience member wanting to see more real stunts, or is that something that in the industry you guys are pushing for? Is like, let us do more. Let us we have the coverage for it.
Yeah, that's a good question. It's definitely riding the balance of like safety and budget. It's like, obviously safety first. You want to be able to perform a stunt 1,000 times and walk away from it. So you that goes into your calculated risk of whether you decide to do this or not, or how you decide to do this. Okay, we want to do it this way. Can we afford it to do it this way? Yes, great. Let's do it that way. No? Okay, how can we change it so that it looks as close as possible to that, but within our budget? And it's just a numbers game that way. Erring on the side of caution, because technology's grown so much in the last 10, 15 years to where everything is safer now. You don't have to hit the ground as hard as you used to. You don't have to do a high fall from 100 feet anymore. You can ride a wire all the way down, and it looks very close, pretty much the same. And you know, you will fool the common moviegoer. You fool other stunt people most of the time. You're like, wait, what? he did that on a wire? Yeah, that was in green screen too. No. So like, it's incredible what the CG guys can do now. It's and much to their credit, like, they've made my job a lot safer, you know. So I can live in this industry and this career much further than the guys before me have. Yeah, you know. I'm gonna be able to walk when I'm 60. Yeah, hopefully. You know, knock on wood. That being said, there's a lot of other older stunt, like classic stunts, still can only be done that way. Yeah, and usually goes to the most experienced guys. Absolutely. You know,
that's awesome.
Yeah, striking that balance. And I feel like that it's, you know, on the voice of, you want the voice on set, you want the stunt coordinator who's like, I know we can do it this way, but I know we can do it for real, safely, and let's try to do that as much as we can. Like, that's kind of the balance that you want to strike.
Did you have any other general thoughts on the stunts or the fighting in this movie?
There was a lot of repeated stuff.
Yeah.
So I got kind of bored after a while. I was like, here's another punch.
Yeah.
Another explosion.
Yeah.
They really like their explosions.
Yeah.
Which, you know, maybe at the time that was what it was all about, right? Like, let's put more explosions. Yeah. And it totally worked. But now the audience is a lot more intelligent in the way that they watch films. So putting 50 cars blowing up over and over and over again, doing a Michael Bay film, isn't as effective anymore, you know?
Yeah. So, what was everyone's overall thoughts on the film? I know you guys loved it.
How many? We're gonna do a rating system right
Ooh.
now. Okay. How many rats in a bag would you give?
Out of what?
Well, you can fit 10 rats in a bag.
Yeah, it's
Fit
always,
10 rats
it's always
in a
out
bag.
of 10. Always out of 10.
Okay.
Well, before you answer, what's the internet's rats in the bag?
Yeah, I don't know.
What would,
I believe Justin has that on hand.
I
It's
can
not
look it
pretty.
up here.
While you're looking up, Thomas, you are Vietnamese American. Did you have any opinion
Yes.
on the portrayal of the Vietnamese in this film?
Absolutely. So the first thing I noticed was like, his accent's wrong. So the general, I keep saying general, Colonel Yen is played by a Korean actor, and his Vietnamese accent is the most American Chinese accent I've ever heard. And I was like, well, I'm along for the ride. Let's do this and see where. And then I was surprised they actually had some Vietnamese in there by legitimate, inflections. Vietnamese was my first language, so I picked up on it pretty easily, and then I also picked up on incorrect Vietnamese. So of course, that was sprinkled in there too. Of course, hey, they tried. It's like asking me to speak Chinese. Of course, I'm gonna say it wrong. I don't care how many times the dialect coach is gonna tell me how to say it. I'm still gonna say it wrong.
Yeah.
But hey, I'm gonna try. They did their best, and I appreciate the director's choice of like, let's use actual language, and it wasn't like an incorrect language. And that's just them trying to portray the character. I don't believe there were any Vietnamese actors at the time. We were still just emigrating post-war. Yeah, we're still trying to learn English.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So trying to find a Vietnamese actor to do that is probably damn near impossible in the 80s. So they did what they had to do.
Yeah. Well, there's no tomato meter or anything for this one, but the movie did not do nearly as well as the first one. It premiered in the number 3 spot the weekend it came out in 1985.
What was it up against?
I don't know. I'd have to
Bronze
take a
medal.
look.
I'll take the bronze.
Yeah, but it didn't even end up making half of what the first film made.
Oh, wow.
Shit.
So it went pretty far downhill.
But not far enough down the hill to not make a third movie.
That's true. And for my rating, I think I'm gonna have to give it 2.
Ooh.
2 rats in a bag.
Rats in a bag.
2 rats in a bag. I mean,
Is that your lowest rating ever? I
don't-
I mean, we didn't even do a rating last
don't
week,
know.
so I'm not sure how to compare it, but I definitely thought this one was better than the other one. So I'm going to give it 4 and a half eaten rat in a bag.
Oh, I'm 4 rats in a bag.
Wow, you guys are harsh. I actually haven't seen the first one, so I have nothing to compare it to. But seeing how this is the first old school action movie I've seen in a long time, it was very refreshing, and it was so campy. I loved it. I will give it 6 rats in a bag.
nice.
I love watching it too. I remember the rat biting scene like more than anything. Must have been on TBS or something like that. But it's just like I remember as a kid being terrified. Oh my god, that rat's gonna fuck him up. And then it's like, oh, Chuck Norris bit the rat.
Oh my God. For me, most of the time throughout this movie, quote unquote movie, I felt like I was watching an episode of MASH. The music was
what?
Yes, the music was so melodramatic.
You realize MASH was a different war.
I know. I'm just saying it felt like a TV show like that. I know it was a different war, you guys. I'm just saying that's what it felt like to me.
Okay.
The music was so over the top, melodramatic.
But we didn't even mention the score.
The acting,
Brian May.
Brian May, yes.
Brian May most famously composed the score for Mad Max and Mad Max the Road Warrior.
That's right.
Yeah, well, those are better scores.
One of the things of the score of this movie is a bell that just jangles through the
Like,
whole
I think
movie.
I feel like you guys made fun of the score from the last film, but this one is so bad. The entire time, like during these quote unquote serious conversations, they're playing this like super sad / heroic melodramatic music, like we're about to win and survive.
It didn't bother me.
Oh my god.
We didn't even get to the point where one of the things that Chuck Norris wanted was an American flag.
Yeah, a beaten up American flag. God.
This made me long for the goddamn silent film that we basically watched, the last one, where there were all these scenes where no one was talking and they were just sneaking around or something.
Chuck Norris was sneaking around on window ledges
because
for like
there's so
an
many
hour.
like terrible lines, like what's the guy's name? Mazzilli?
Mazzilli wants to fuck that chicken.
They're all Nestor's all like, "Oh, I got to see my kid," and there's a later scene where he's like, "I haven't even seen my child," and he says to Braddock like, "I'm just not as tough as you," and, like all this like these terrible lines that like made me want to stop watching the movie immediately. I don't know how you guys thought it was better than the last one.
I absolutely did. Well, because it's very much in the vein of like old school action movies.
It had more fighting, it had more explosions, and it at least
And
had
you-
more characters that you got to know. Like,
You knew why people were doing things.
I 100% like would have made the same choice as Paramount or Canon
Really?
or whatever.
Oh my gosh.
Because the movie this movie is like, first of all, from an audience perspective, you're looking and seeing like your main character being like doing nothing basically in the entire first 3/4 of the film. And in the other one, it's like way more serious tone, and he's kind of like, even though you don't know what he's doing, he's being more of like a badass the whole time.
Right, he's being like
more in control of the situation.
He's being like an Ethan Hunt character as opposed to an Ethan.
He's
Cunt.
got a plan, and
whoa.
come on, he's got a plan in the other one, and it's just like more of a serious tone. This one's so melodramatic and like,
Yeah, he
over the
doesn't
top.
do anything until like he's like, "You killed my friend."
It's just dumb.
I just thought it was better that there were more people to play off of, honestly. Like, I don't know.
I was waiting for Robert Downey Jr. to pop out and be like, I'm the dude playing a dude and another dude. What's up, dude?
Yeah, as Tyler said, it made enough money to make a third one.
There's a third one?
There's a third one. The next one is called Braddock Missing in Action 3.
And I think it's a prequel.
Really?
I don't know. I have no idea.
I think it might be.
All I gotta say
kinda
is maybe they should stop sending this guy out in the field if he's gonna get fucking missing in action every time he goes.
Reminds me of that joke in Taken 3. It's like, if your daughter gets taken 3 times, you might not be the best father.
Like, what are they gonna do?
Braddock, you get missing in action 3 times? Come
What are
on,
they gonna do?
dude.
Is he gonna wake up in the beginning of the film and be like, I forgot about my other friend. I have to go get him.
I left my daughter
I
at the
left
zoo.
the chicken. I need to get the chicken.
Silly's chicken, no. We didn't get to
Oh
eat
my
it.
god! If it was
say-
all about him saving the chicken, that would be the most amazing thing.
I'm going to
in the
predict
world.
that they bring in Braddock as a specialist for a different battle theater. You know, like, no more Vietnam. Like, they bring him in to help with missing action people somewhere else.
Man,
That's my guess.
I think he's going back to Vietnam.
I think
again.
he's going back to Vietnam.
Rescue some more missing in action people.
Yeah.
Alrighty.
Those poor hookers. I must free them.
Yeah.
They're only virgins.
They missed a couple appointments. They're missing in action.
No.
I mean, maybe.
All right, so I guess we're going to wrap this up. Thomas, do you want to tell everybody where they can learn more about you and where they can see you next?
Yeah, I've been fortunately working quite a bit on Westworld, and so season 2 when that comes out,
Nice.
look out for the Ghost Nation. Some of them might be dying, and I might be one of them.
I can't wait.
It's going to be great.
And then you guys might have heard of this little movie called Ready Player One. It's coming up pretty soon. I'll be in that. And yeah, general stuff I post on my Instagram. What is it? At dabomb.goboom.
Which it's been that forever, like
It's
since
been
we
that
were
since
in middle school.
That's great. That's great.
Sidebar, me and Elizabeth have known each other since middle school.
Yeah, 7th grade.
That's fantastic.
yeah.
Yeah.
And what's your website
My
again?
website is www.thomas-vu.com.
Great.
Sweet. Well, it's been great having you on the show, man.
Yeah,
we really
fantastic.
appreciate it.
This was
You've
a lot
been
of fun.
Awesome. Eliz, where can people keep in touch with us in the meantime?
Yeah, you can follow us on Instagram at Sequel Rights, as well as Twitter at Sequel Rights, and then give us a like on Facebook.com/Sequel Rights.
And follow us and rate us on iTunes or whatever your podcasts are sold. We appreciate those 5-star reviews.
Yeah, and we'll see you guys next week while we go looking for Braddock missing in action 3.